Hello, and welcome to the LLG vlog. You're with me, Dennis Hall, LLG Bulletin Editor, and as usual, of course, Helen Bennett, LLG's Executive Director of Policy and Governance. Helen, how are you? Was the weekend hot enough for you, by the way?
I am not going to moan about the weather because
Right,
I'm just going to leave it there.
right. Well, let's deal with today's business right away. Today's question is, can lawyers really rely on AI? From helping doctors to cure patients, to aiding teachers in drawing up lesson plans, and assisting lawyers with legal research, generative artificial intelligence is currently being adopted across the economy at breakneck speed in the UK and everywhere else. Now, a growing number of expert voices are starting to ask how much of an asset the technology can be to the UK economy and to its professions. Not least because there is no escaping a persistent flaw. Large language models, LLMs as they're known, remain prone to casually making things up. Yes, it really is true. It's been reported. They get things wrong, as we shall see.
Hmm. Well, this is the new one on me, and I hadn't
Yes,
heard this word before, but apparently it's a phenomenon known
yes,
in the IT world as hallucination. Um,
that's it.
in a recent blog post, there's a barrister to hear Khan, and he cited three cases in which lawyers used large language AI models to formulate legal filings or arguments. And people have read about these, only to find that they slipped up in a number of fictitious Supreme Court cases and literally made up regulations or non-existent laws. And Khan warned that hallucinated legal texts often appear stylistically legitimate, formatted with citations, statutes, judicial opinions, and it creates this kind of illusion of credibility that can mislead even experienced legal professionals.
And just to be clear, we're not concerned here with research tools used on proprietary platforms such as LexisNexis or Westlaw that use their own carefully accumulated databases. So, Helen, what set off the recent wave of skepticism in all of this?
Well, I think we definitely reported on this in the podcast previously, and because of interest within our own sector, matters came to a head, I believe, towards the end of May, when the case of Frederick Ayinde, and if I pronounce that wrong, I apologise, and the London Borough of Haringey came before Dame Victoria Sharp, who's the president of the King's Bench Division, sitting with Mr. Justice Johnson. And in this case, a barrister undergoing pupillage, I believe, seemingly did not appreciate the seriousness of citing cases that did not exist. She researched principles and authorities using a number of different websites and various, I believe, online legal blogs and websites. And she used these sites to find cases and legal principles and added them to her personal table of cases. And she also used engines such as Google, Safari to search legislation. And the people hadn't realised that she had, in fact, relied upon AI-generated source material. And in handing down judgment, Dame Victoria Sharp said, artificial intelligence is a tool that carries with it risks as well as opportunities, and its use must take place, therefore, with an appropriate degree of oversight and within a regulatory framework that ensures compliance with well-established professional and ethical standards, Dennis. And that needs to take place if public confidence in the administration of justice is to be maintained. And there really are serious implications for the administration of justice and public confidence in the justice system, isn't there, if artificial intelligence is misused?
Well, indeed, and I understand, Helen, that in this and in another similar case, it was not considered that a contempt of court had actually taken place. But it is understood that the cases have generated referrals to the relevant regulators to examine the conduct that took place. And since then, the Civil Justice Council has created a working group to examine the use of artificial intelligence in preparing court documents and to consider recommending amendments to procedural rules. Terms of reference should be published within the next few weeks. But Helen, what exactly are the experts saying about these systems?
Well, there's a tech a tech skeptic, I like that word, journalist called Ed Zitron, who's argued in a recent blog post actually that the tendency or something like Chat GPT to assert something to be true when it isn't, meant it was a non-starter for most businesses, where obviously what you write has to be true, and that it remains to be seen what the legal regulators will say about all of this. But it's highly unlikely, highly likely that they will take the view that AI systems alone cannot be relied upon without verification and oversight of some kind, basically.
Well, yes, that must be right. Academics at the University of Glasgow have said that current AI models are not set up to solve problems or indeed to reason, but they are designed to predict the most plausible sounding sentence based on the vast data that they've hoovered up. And in a paper from last year, Michael Townsend Hicks and his colleagues at Glasgow University said that large language models simply aim to replicate human speech or writing. And this means that their primary goal is merely to produce human-like text. And this is not problem solving by any means.
No, and really, in other words, and to be clear, the hallucinations I referred to earlier, they're not just glitches to be ironed out by an update. They're literally an integral problem to the way that AI models actually work, I believe.
Well, that's right, exactly. And last year's joint winner of the Nobel Prize for Economics, Darren Acemoglu, says that given its issues with accuracy, generative AI will replace only a narrowly defined set of roles in the foreseeable future. And he goes on, as it's going to impact just a bunch of office jobs that are concerned with data summary, visual matching, pattern recognition, etc. And those are essentially about 5% of the economy. And our research, Helen, already bears this out, doesn't it? Our own analysis that has appeared in earlier blogs and podcasts does not suggest that legal jobs will disappear in the future. Rather, the nature of legal roles may change.
Yeah, I think that's got to be right. So, Dennis, other skeptics and indeed some experts right to conclude, would you say that generative AI is fundamentally flawed? Because I would say, before you answer that, I would say that firstly, our discussion today raises serious questions about the extent to which AI should really be replacing rather than assisting human employees. After all, it's people, not systems, who take ultimate responsibility for what they deliver at work. I think Chat GPT and its rivals have, amazing power. So let's acknowledge that power definitely exists, but they can synthesize, vast amounts of information and present it in whatever style, format you choose. And it's great, really, for unearthing the accumulated wisdom, if we can put it that way, of the internet. And importantly, we must ask ourselves, though, is it fit for purpose in a legal environment in light of the cases we've referred to? So I'll let you speak now, Dennis. What do you think?
Well, don't be surprised by my answer to the question that you raised just a moment ago. It really does depend upon what you're using these tools for, how you use them, and whether you take the time to verify the accuracy of what you obtain from these systems. So perhaps, Helen, it would be a good idea to leave our members with some advice on this. First, take time to understand the AI technologies that you do deploy in your research. What does it do? And more importantly, what does it not do? Yeah. Maintain your professional curiosity at all times.
Yeah, and that goes back to your point about independently verifying the sources of the research, like you would the news or something, you shouldn't just take that at face value and satisfy yourself that the material is accurate and actually exists.
Indeed. Finally, please do remember, the courts and regulators do not hold technology to account. They hold you to account. Oh, and by the way, only human resources were used in the production of this vlog, weren't they, Helen?
Well, that's what you say, Dennis. When I asked AI how to tell if something has been produced by AI, it said, well, amongst a number of things, it said tone and style quirks. AI often writes in an inconsistent, overly formal tone or uses oddly stiff phrasing. You might notice a lack of emotional nuance or a tendency to over-explain, and it talks about repetition, sentence structure, lack of context or subtlety, and overuse of cliches or generic phrases. And I thought, well, that sounds a tiny bit like a lawyer, don't you think?
How dare you, Helen? Well, perhaps. I accept AI and legal writing often share the same traits like clarity, structure, and precision, but for very different reasons, I think. Lawyers are trained to write in a way that is logical and concise, yet thorough, persuasive, and audience aware. There's a good phrase. And a
Yeah.
good lawyer knows when to be formal, when to be plain spoken, and when to let a bit of rhetorical artistry take the lead, like what I can do.
And Dennis, when to stop talking, I think,
Well,
which is
yes.
which is right about now for me. So it's been a lovely discussion as always.
And it has for me too. Thanks, Helen.
Thanks,
Bye
Dennis.
now.